Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning. I was not sure. You know what? I restarted my machine or something because I'm not hearing the sound. Fix the light here. That's better. Okay, so Tuesday. I had a pretty good day yesterday. This swing trade is going pretty good. Almost to 3K. Let's come and look at the charts. All right, so we're about where we were yesterday. That was a pretty strong downtrend, though. That was man. I'm kind of off today, aren't I? Yeah, that was the ISM PMIs smacking the markets down. But once again, the equity markets digs themselves out of the hole. How many more times can they do that before it well, I think that interest rates could have quite some room to run up before they would really have a negative impact on the equities. So here's oil marginally higher today, trying to dig out of that hole. Gold and silver, they're decoupling from the treasuries a little bit, but man, they just got hammered by the treasuries, right? Copper still struggling. China is still not looking very good, and the dollar is still pretty strong, 104.25, and Bitcoin in a consolidating range. Good morning, Jiwi, Apol, Tactical Tenacity. All right, so today we do have some Fed speakers. Let's see here. Mester speaks at 10. Kashkari speaks at 11. Now, Kashkari has been saying that the neutral rate has probably risen. And as such, monetary policy is maybe not as restrictive as we thought. So I think that we're going to hear more about that. So I think Fed Kashkari's speech may be more anticipated than normal, even though he's not a voter this year. U.S. 3-year note auction today. But not really a whole lot of news. And you can see the treasuries have gotten really tight here as the session started. So I guess we have a little bit of time or room to explore today. That's what we're gonna do. I could probably, I'll probably want to take some mean reversion trades in here, but I guess I could switch counts. I don't know. Probably just leave it alone for now. Wow, Nancy Pelosi is up 84.3% this year alone. Her positions have made $3 million in gains. That's crazy. We are getting some Canadian numbers here. It is super quiet on the like the social media front this morning. Like I'm just browsing through Twitter and other places, and it's just very quiet. I think we're gonna have a really slow session today, guys. Wow. Some alligator posted a tweet from, sorry, here, I pull it up. Got to see to believe. This guy is saying that birth rates versus the 10-year average inflation rate, they're very heavily correlated. Very interesting. Okay, well, last night I was trying to get my Kubernetes cluster to work, and I had a little bit of success with Talos, but it really seems to me that these things are meant to be run across multiple machines. So I think that I'm gonna clean that machine and put Manjaro on it. Manjaro. Yeah, I don't consider 3 ticks up and down good movement, dude. It is turning down now. A little bit. We'll see what it does. Overnight? Yeah, overnight wasn't too bad. I don't know. It's kind of when it's going back into that mode where it's like it does nothing during the regular session and then all of the movement is overnight, huh? Well, there you go. It was like they're on the edge and then 2 ticks up. ZB is going down though. We might be getting some steepening in the spread here. Yesterday I lost two. What? Well, yeah. So first thing is, if you're really starting to trade serious money, I would highly recommend getting a UPS and good system and all of that sort of stuff. But 2K is, you're probably trading pretty big too, to have lost 2K during the day yesterday. Yeah, it is a no news Tuesday. I am like, I have already checked out on this day. My mind is on. So last night I was trying to get a Kubernetes cluster running, and I tried a bunch of different things. I tried doing the cluster from scratch on Debian. I tried using Talos OS. So I had more success with Talos, but it still was acting like, maybe I'm misunderstanding something, but it was acting like that you can't just have the control plane. You have to have a control plane and at least one worker. And so if I just want to do it all on one machine, I should probably use K3S. So now I'm like, okay, let's just go back and start over. But that's also made me question whether I want to use Debian, because I used Debian Linux and installed on top of that. And then after about a week and a half, 2 weeks, like the network adapter will stop working. So I don't know if that's something specifically to do with Debian or if I'll get it with other Linux distributions also. But so I started going into the Arch Linux rabbit hole. But when I started doing that and it started in like doing the actual install, I guess you could say, it did something weird. It was like frozen, basically, as far as I could tell. So I don't know. I think I just need to retry doing Arch. But I don't know if doing it here while their stream is going is the right way to do it. Tails OS? Okay, let's look that up. Debian-based distribution. Next to the internet through Tor. I see. Yeah. Like, okay. The annoying thing about Linux, by the way, we did break new low there. The annoying thing about Linux and Linux distributions is that they're really all pretty much the same thing. It's just that there's like one component that are, so like Linux is just a kernel, right? So to have a working operating system, you need more than just a kernel. And so all of these different distributions are just kind of swapping out these different components and stuff. And part of the problem is that, like, it's impossible to know which components you actually want and use and so forth. And then you kind of get into this world where, like, the commands that you're used to aren't even installed and stuff like that. Well, if we were to go all the way down to 110.23, I'd be mighty impressed. So far, just in terms of movement, this could just be something that reverses back up. But you are starting to see a decent amount of volume getting cleared here at 26.5, for instance. So we do have the beginning signs of a large meta order. And when you get a large meta order on a No News Tuesday, those can often be some of the craziest ones, right? Kind of teetering on the edge right now. Yeah. Oh, okay. So we do have Fed speakers today. That's true. It's just they won't be speaking until our trading session is done, or let's say Seth's trading session is done. That might not be the case for you, but it did come back up. Not the volume on the back up, but I think you might still have the beginnings of a meta order. So keep an eye on it here. You got to be careful because that's how they get you on a no News Tuesday, right? Because they make you think that something crazy is going to happen, and then as soon as you get in, it reverses, right? No news Tuesdays are the worst. But do I have some stuff this morning? Hold on. Oh, I guess so. I guess I will listen in on that. We're doing this. Okay, so see, it came back down there awfully easily. This does seem heavy. This market only goes up. You talking about the S&P 500? The rally in the last hour or so in the S&P 500 is pretty striking, isn't it? So here's what I saw yesterday, and I think it was Zero Hedge was the one that was saying this. Is they were saying, oh, interest rates went up by 10 basis points or whatever. That's super bad for stocks, right? Yeah, that'll make it really hard for you to be productive and hire more people and all this sort of stuff. Oh, well, that just means that AI is even more important because that's going to be the only way that we're going to be able to get more productivity without, hiring more workers and yada, 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 right? So, the big tech companies and the AI stuff still did well, even though interest rates were higher and the market got really pummeled at the beginning of the session. So, there's this correlation that has shifted in the E-mini that is a little disconcerting to me. It seems to me that the equity market is riding on the success of 5 different stocks, and it's become its own self-perpetuating machine that when that blows up is just going to be devastating to the market. And I think that between index funds and momentum trading and all of that, it seems like that a lot of the automated strategies have just become a little bit too powerful in the market and need to be cut down to size. Problem is, maybe we do get that soft landing and it might be a long, long time before they see the reckoning that they need. still see signs of a break. Yeah. Let me tell you something, man. On a No News Tuesday, if they start a trend, they can be insane trends. But they're the sneakiest ones. So it's going to look like something's going on, right? They always make it look like something's going on. Most of the time, it's nothing and it just reverts. But then there's that one edge case where it just 20 basis points in one day. AI bubble? I kind of think there is an AI bubble, yeah. ChatGPT is not going to replace all of these jobs that people seem to think that they will. I've noticed that people outside of the tech space view the tech space very, very differently from the way that people inside of the tech space do. And they always over-exaggerate it. Like right now, there's been a lot of layoffs in the tech space. There has been. Google has laid people off. Like all of the big companies are laying people off. If you are coming out of school, it's probably really difficult. I think part of that is what the kids are going for, right? They all think that they're going to go and work for Google. Well, probably not. I think for the near foreseeable future, that the people working at the really big tech firms are going to be experienced, top of the class people. And there's not going to be very much new blood coming into there, okay? So if you're just coming out of school, I think that you just want to go for a small local company and build up your experience. And then eventually the market will turn hot again and people will just be begging you to work for them, right? So I don't think that like the tech sector is decimated, but it has changed. But when you go and you read on the internet, they're like, oh no, tech is oversaturated. All you people that went into computer science are screwed. Yada. No, they're not screwed. All these people that went into computer science, if you actually, paid attention in school and actually got good at it, you will find a job and you will make more money than the average person in the long run. You will. But it's just they always go way overboard, and I'm absolutely seeing that with AI. This is like, okay, ChatGPT is cool, but there's significant limitations. Once you actually start using it to do work, it's like, you remember when it first came out and somebody went and created this GPT that like it can run any commands that it wants. It can run any command that it wants, and you just give it a goal. You give it a goal, and then it just keeps running, trying to accomplish that goal. So you say, make $1 million, and then it goes and it says, okay, I'm going to try and make $1 million. Let's try making an e-commerce website. And then it starts doing all this stuff to make an e-commerce website and whatnot. And there's all these people that were making these videos, like showing the computer doing all of this crazy stuff and everything. Okay. You notice like you never saw the conclusion to that stuff, right? It's because it didn't go anywhere. The robot just eventually just outputs junk. It doesn't make a usable thing. I find GPT really useful to search for things. I find it really useful to get ideas, but it can't do my job. And, GPT is like one very, very specific type of technology, too. They got something that actually incorporates logic into it. That will be a big step. But even then, I don't think that it's going to be putting millions of people out of work. It'll change the nature of work, but it'll just create more jobs. So your job will be interfacing with the AI rather than doing everything from scratch, right? Just like the job right now in technology, a lot of the job is searching through Google, right? Well, it's been a few minutes now. I do think that it's messing with us here. I think the funniest application is to ask GPT-4 to make images for you, and you can do funny stuff with that. But it's kind of weird. Like if you point out a mistake to it, it's not like it doesn't change the mistake. I'm not sure. Something is sending me notifications, but I don't know what it is. Is it Steam? See if that does it. Okay, so when it comes to trading futures is a much it's a much more information-based game, at least during the day, and trading the liquidity is also very, very important. So if you go to my page, if you go to my YouTube page, I have like a getting started list, and I also have a order flow list. So go and watch those. That's where I would start. Sorry, I'm listening to something else in my head, so I might not be as responsive as I normally am. The other thing is to just come in here every day and watch, and you'll learn a lot. This is something you kind of have to learn from just getting involved in the market. That even Tucker Carlson being in Russia was upsetting people. Well, you can do both because there are options on futures. Part of my issue here is I'm listening to a meeting, but the other thing is, so you're coming in saying that you know options, you want to learn for futures, and I'm like, well, if you're trading options, I think you probably already know the things that you need to know, and you just need to find like a platform and a broker and stuff. For the live, we run from 8:30 Eastern time till about 11 Eastern time. So 2.5 hours every day. Kind of on a no news Tuesdays, so it's kind of the market's not moving a whole lot, and Yeah. When it's like a non-farms, it's just like crazy stuff. Yeah. Looks like, yeah, it does look like, you know, they were trying to make it look like something's happening, but then it comes back up there. So it is no news Tuesday. No news Tuesday. Think that the equities market is ever going to back off here? And it looks like it's going to rally at least into the open. Hmm. Okay. I'm starting to see a little bit more volume trading here in that 28 half area. It does look like it's a potential liquidity hole spot, but I is curious. Maybe the equity traders coming in and hedging a little bit with the treasuries. Man, it is that trend in the ES is just awfully crazy, isn't it? Are they gonna like start teasing us on the upside now? I did say this is pretty tight though. So for some reason, Reddit has been showing me these subreddits like r/layoffs and career focused subreddits and stuff like that. And I just see a lot of interesting stuff. Like there's definitely a lot of people that are like really sour on the economy right now, which is crazy considering how strong employment is right now. But I think it's mostly because the people on Reddit are techies, and tech had a lot of layoffs. They'll find new jobs, but Here's just some guy. I spent 6 years as a software engineer building a startup and achieving several promotions along the way. That startup ultimately got acquired for over $1 billion, and then I got laid off. You didn't get options? Dude, if you're working for a startup, that's the whole effing point of working for a startup is to get some ownership, some shares in the company so that when it gets acquired for over 1 billion, you get paid. That's crazy. Okay, here we go. So there was some movement there on the open in the Treasury, and the initial flow in the ES was buy. And I'm seeing a lot on Twitter this morning from the political guys about the supposed border deal. Nobody actually thinks that stands a smidgen of a chance of passing, right? But they're all kind of talking like we need to defeat this bill and that sort of a thing. Nah, I don't think it was ever a serious bill. It makes you wonder what the Republicans that were negotiating with them were thinking, but I don't think that it was ever a serious bill. Let's see, what does Anthony Crudelli have to say today? By now you've all heard the statistics. The market is being led by the Magnificent Seven, and the rest of the market isn't doing much. We've also all noticed rates continuing to gradually increase, causing us to question if the indexes would take notice. Additionally, the NQ futures have asset managers the most long in over 5 years, according to QuickStrike's Commitment of Traders data. For now, none of this seems to matter to ES and NQ, demonstrating their resilience as their charts continue to indicate a climb. In this business, we all learned that at some point, that what might not matter today could hold significant weight tomorrow. In the era of high-frequency trading, things can be insignificant for months and then suddenly become crucial. In the days of all-human trading, risks were accounted for more promptly, as humans tend to think more about risks. Machines, however, relentlessly follow trends, pushing those who oppose them. For now, my strategy is to steer clear of this market. As an independent trader, managing risk in this situation is beyond my capabilities, even in the short term. As a swing trader and sometimes a day trader, I require clear direction and market environment to rely on. Current environment emphasizes capital preservation. Important observations include the 10-year, which remains weak and continues to pressure the RTY. This is the strongest correlation I see right now. Shorting both markets on rallies appears to be the most straightforward strategy. ES and NQ have to rally on the daily. I wouldn't recommend opposing them just because the ZN and RTY are selling off. A significant sell-off in ZN would be required to impact ES and NQ, and we're not quite there yet. Keep it light and tight. Yeah, I think he's right. It's funny. Because for us, past week was really big, right? But equities, it's becoming tougher. Well, look at that. 4-point rally and then immediately cut back down to size. So is the ES, now that we've opened, is the trend over and the ES is just going to chop around? Because I think that's the real thing, is he wants to swing in ES, essentially, right? And at least during the day session, doesn't go anywhere. So, but I think he's right. Like, the better trade is to be short treasuries. At least that's what I am. Watching rates, like, slowly rise. And maybe it gets to a point where it affects ES, but who knows? So earlier, Uzi tried to drag me into a political conversation talking about Tucker Carlson interviewing Putin reportedly. And, I was just busy at the time. So now I can get dragged into the political conversation. People were very upset that he was in Russia. Like all of those standard hawkish political people, they were super pissed. There was one person saying that like they should revoke his visa, not let him come back. If I wanted to try, I would have made more than one comment. Okay, fair enough. But it probably is he's going to interview Putin, don't you think? So the question would then become, how good of a job does he do with the interview? Does he actually give him difficult questions and things like that? I don't know. I kind of feel like Tucker Carlson has not been very discerning on this issue. Like there's this narrative that like, well, what we were doing was very likely to provoke Russia, and so it's all our fault, and then kind of like just playing stooge for the Russian propaganda in some instances, frankly. So do we know which Putin he interviewed? I got my Twitter feed up beside this window and I just saw it slide across the feed that, yeah. But you know what? I think for a journalist like Tucker, like, I'm not even sure I would understand the point of interviewing Putin. Like, if you are too hard on him in the interview, if you're as hard on him as you probably should be with a world leader, then you don't get the interview again, right? So I'm not quite sure I understand what that's going to accomplish. But at the same time, I don't understand a lot of things about what the far right believes about this whole thing. Honestly, sometimes I feel that they're just opposing it and supporting Putin because it was a Democrat. It started under a Democrat, you know? It really feels like that a lot to me. Well, I tell you what, there was a little bit of activity and everything around the S&P 500 open, but since then the treasuries have just been like completely dead again. Interviewing Hamas leaders, journalism, interviewing G20 leader. Yeah, Southwest, sorry, thinking Carlson is a journalist. Well, I would say he is a journalist, yeah. Define journalist. Person who writes for newspapers, magazines, or news websites or prepares news to be broadcast. Yeah, I think that fits Tucker Carlson. Journalists can have biases. See, this is this thing that like is in the public consciousness that is just dead wrong and drives me absolutely crazy. Is the idea that journalists are supposed to be unbiased, right? Like you don't get oh man, like with the way that Fox News works, right? Because wasn't who was it? He was always like, "It's our news is unbiased," and yada yada yada. I was like, who would actually believe that? Well, it's because the public has been kind of lied to this whole time, telling them that the news is just the news and it's just like this unbiased take about what's actually happening. And once you kind of like get into that world, you kind of realize that that's impossible. That's impossible. Just by what you choose to, well, frankly, one of the biggest biases that you can have is what you choose to air and not. Like which stories you choose to cover. There's a huge amount of bias in that, right? We're not supposed to know the Russian. Well, I kind of feel like we do. They act like you couldn't watch Putin talk about his perspective and disagree with it. It's like they're afraid you're going to agree with him. Nah, I don't think that. But I do think that they're afraid that he's going to say a lot of false things that, the problem with the misinformation thing is that it's really easy to spread the misinformation and it's really, really difficult to correct it, right? Like we deal with the same problem here in trading. If you're just going off of empirical information, okay, cool, but there's all of these rumors and ideas about the way that the market works that aren't based on empirical information at all, and they just spread, and they spread faster than the good information does for some reason, So a lot of the things that they say about what got them into this conflict and everything are just BS, They're just total BS things. I work very hard. I work very hard to try and ensure that everything that I tell you is backed up by information. And if it's not, I make it very clear that what we're talking about is speculative. Yes, it would be. What else would you call it? Let me teach you something. When I was in high school, I had a friend, really good friend, still really respect him, and we would debate about things all the time. But like back then, it was like StarCraft and that sort of crap, right? So you're talking, and then you'd get into a debate of some sort or a disagreement of some sort. And one of the things that would always come up that you would always say is, don't let words get in the way of communication. And I always thought that was such a smart way of approaching the world. Because once you start to argue about semantics, you're not really trying to have an argument that is like beneficial to everybody, right? Like the idea should be, if we are arguing about what the best early game strategy is for Zerg, then the objective is for us to learn, get better at that game, right? So once we start arguing about semantics, now you're trying to play this game about control of ideas, and right, when you're trying to control the language, you're trying to control people's thoughts ultimately, right? So whenever it comes down into semantics, that you're kind of veering off into a less effective, less useful conversation, right? So why would we want to try and argue about what is an interview and who is a journalist? Like, as we commonly understand it, Tucker Carlson is a prominent media personality that talks about news and breaks news, and he will he will have sit down discussions that he records with people. Okay, I call that an interview. If you don't call that an interview, that's okay. But I don't think that the words are what the word means really matters. You know what we're talking about. Politics is just speculating off the lies politicians. Oh, I wouldn't say that. So, the word politics can mean multiple things, though, right? Because to me, politics is more about looking at what the politicians say and trying to predict how people will react to it and what will happen based off of that, right? So I guess you could say it's speculating off of the lies that politicians tell us. One of the things that I really wish people understood, and this is something I bring up when it pertains to politics all the time, is that most of the time when the politicians say them, they're not lying. Most of the time, especially when they're first running for office, they genuinely want to make those things happen. And what almost always happens is once they get into office, they find out that it's not so simple, right? They find out that accomplishing their goal is unrealistic, or they find out that their goal is just a bad idea in general, is usually more likely the case, right? That's why you really got to be careful about the real ideologues, okay, like the Ocasio-Cortezes of the world, because those are the ones that when they get into office, they don't make that realization, because they simply, their ego will never allow them to. They are completely dedicated to the ideology and they will follow it to a fault, right? Most people that are practical people get in and go, oh yeah, this is a bad idea, let's not do that. We'll continue to tell the public that we're working on it or something, but this is not a policy we should actually implement. It is. And when it comes down to, like, there's this whole thing that, like, public opinion isn't very predictive of policy anymore. Well, I don't know if it ever was, but it's not. It's because the public is simply not informed enough to even really to really even play in that field about like what would be good policy and stuff. It's gotten too complicated. And then on top of that, like, Congress just doesn't do anything anyways, right? So just let us have all the information. I would personally like to decide for myself what's information and what's the truth. But which information, right? Like, and in what method? You've got to understand that it is impossible. It is impossible to relate information to somebody else without biasing it in some form or another. There'll always be some bias in the information that you're fed. Always will be. It's unavoidable. And then on top of that, if we did, if we gave you all the information, you probably wouldn't read it. It would probably be too boring. It would probably include too many details that you think are irrelevant, right? Well, that uptrend that we got up to 111 even wasn't bad. Probably a little bit of a stop run involved in there. But I don't have a whole lot of confidence of it continuing. I think they would probably just get stuck at 111. Well, even with research. Okay, so research is really important. I mean, what would differentiate research is that it includes empirical evidence, right? But even with research, there can be biases in it, right? That's what we're all finding out with a lot of this woke stuff kind of infecting the universities, and there being a lot, like you've seen these things where these guys, they'll make these research papers and submit them to a bunch of different journals, and the journals love them and are, and they were complete nonsense, right? So empirical evidence is very important, but there's still a bias in there in like what empirical evidence is shown and whatnot, right? Like if I do a study, like if I make a video and I show you the results of a certain strategy, right? There was probably like 100 different runs of the strategy where I was refining it and trying to get that strategy to what was the most accurate representation, I felt at least, of that particular strategy, right? And I can't show you all of those. They're not, I don't think that they're relevant, but it is empirical data that you're not shown, right? So there's really no way around. You're getting information from other people. It's colored in some way. The reason that empirical evidence is so critical is because it's the one way that you can go and verify it for yourself. You can see, okay, this data actually is there. Okay, now let's kind of dig around that. I can change some things. I can, I think that they've maybe made this assumption that's incorrect, or, there's this little nuance that they missed. And then you can test those yourself and find out, right? You have to do your own primary research, essentially. That's what makes the research different. News, you can't really do that because you don't get the opportunity to talk to all the people that like saw the thing happen, right? To verify it. But when it comes to Tucker Carlson, I think there's this political angle to it, though, that's a little unique, right? The Russia invaded under a Democrat president, so the Republicans are all anti-Ukraine war. Okay, if it started under Donald Trump, even if Donald Trump had started it, I know, we all know, the Republicans would be all over it, and they would be like the biggest war hawks ever again. Okay? I think that the fact that it was a Democrat president is absolutely a significant part of it, right? But then there's this other kind of bias in this that kind of has to do with, like, I think what you think is more important, right? Because many people have said, and I think in retrospect that they were correct, that NATO's actions were likely to upset Russia. I think that that's true. They did not think that it would upset Russia to the point that they would invade Ukraine. And to be honest, like Putin invading Ukraine was like really a crazy, insane decision. Okay. But in retrospect, we can see, yeah, it did provoke them into action. And there were things that NATO was doing that made Russia feel like that they needed to do that, right? So if your primary concern is let's avoid the war at all costs, then I can see how you might come down on that side and say, oh, well, if we just shouldn't have done X, Y, and Z, and then we wouldn't have had a war. But the split side of that, the argument that I don't feel gets played on the right, is that all of the things that NATO did were all things that were completely within their rights and within Ukraine's rights. So people are always say, you look, if Russia installed some sort of puppet regime in Canada, you think that the United States would just sit there? And my response to that is yes. Because we literally have a communist in Canada right now, and we don't do anything about it. Okay? It's something that they don't care about, because I think that they're more concerned about that we shouldn't have a war, right? I think that you kind of have to, I don't know, the kind of the conclusion that I've come to watching this go on for 30 years is that in the current state of the world, that war is unavoidable, and that you can limit the damage of it. But it is a tool, it is a necessary part of the world as far as I can see. And that's the difference. That's the difference that I think people have, right? But for some reason, instead of talking about it as like some sort of a philosophical difference, it's turned into this like, oh, well, the West has been unfair to Russia, and we're not letting them tell their side of the story. And yet, well, I mean, Putin gives speeches all the time. You can go read his speeches. There's people that translate it for you, tell you what he's saying. There's people that debunk the things that he's saying. I don't think it's true that we haven't given him this opportunity to talk. Just everybody who's involved in policy here in the West recognizes what he's saying is BS. They're all unified on it. I can't believe anyone anywhere could think that the Russian invasion was avoidable in any way. No, I do, because the West exerted influence on Ukraine and changed the government into a pro-Western government. I mean, you can argue about like how much of that actually was the U.S. doing their stuff, but the reality is that the government changed to a more pro-Western government, and there was Western intelligence agencies talking to them and involved. And Russia's thing is Ukraine cannot be allowed to be pro-Western, to fall under their sphere of influence. They have to stay under our sphere of influence. That's basically like the whole doctrine that they've got going on over there. So yes, the West could have avoided doing X, Y, and Z thing. I don't think that Russia would have invaded Ukraine. Because then they would be allies, and Russia or Ukraine would have absolutely no problem with having troops in Ukraine, and staging an invasion of Poland. Right? So and that's the other thing that I think that the right really ignores, is that it is driven by an ultra-nationalist foreign policy kind of perspective that they have in Russia that is really quite crazy. And that basically says that they have to take over all of the eastern states and get their iron wall back to protect themselves against outside aggressors. And that they need to do it soon before their power continues to wane. Yeah, it's important to understand in relation to politics the dark triad. Well, it's particularly psychopathy, right? I don't even know if it's understanding the dark triad as much as it is understanding the liability that empathy can be in politics, right? Because what is empathy? Empathy is basically you doing something that is against your best interests in order to help somebody else. That's when you're acting on empathy, that is. Right? Empathy is feeling for other people, but what does empathy accomplish? It causes you to do things that are not necessarily in your best interest, but help other people. And we've developed that because helping other people in the tribe makes the tribe stronger and helps your group. And so that's super, super important. It's super, super important to the survival of the group, right? But once we go beyond a village, okay, these sorts of things can be used against you, especially on the world political stage. And on the world political stage, you kind of have to assume that the other side is going to act like a psychopath. And we're going to have a thing with Secretary Yellen? Oh, yeah, she is speaking at the top of the hour. Okay. Okay. And yeah, I would say that Putin is one of these people that he acts like a psychopath. I'm not saying he is a psychopath, but he says what is in Russia's best interest and just does that. No questions asked. And the problem is just that his idea of what is in the best interest of Russia is kind of crazy. Kind of crazy. S&P 500 is getting a pretty ugly downturn there. I don't think it's any worse than any of the other sell-offs we've seen in the past week, but it did peak early and it's selling. And they're giving up most of those overnight gains now. I tell you what, if this was a strong trend, and then it wipes it out in 15 minutes, okay. Did I just hear that right? US wants to categorize treasury traders trading in ETFs as dealers? I wonder what that means. Wonder what kind of impacts that has on things. SEC moves to tighten oversight of $26 trillion treasury market. That says the Financial Times. U.S. regulator to vote on rule that would force some high-speed traders and hedge funds to register as dealers. Oh, cool. Financial Times is going to let me read the whole thing. Let's read it. U.S. regulators are expected to approve rules on Tuesday that will bring high-speed traders and sub-hedge funds under direct supervision in the $26 trillion bond market, in the latest effort to bolster its stability following a series of crises. So maybe not necessarily you, Uzi. The Security and Exchange Commission will vote in Washington on a proposal to force high-speed traders and some hedge funds in the treasury market to register with the agency as dealers. Such firms have become central players in a market once dominated by banks, as regulations brought in after the financial crisis made it costlier for mainstream lenders to trade treasuries. The rules require firms designated as dealers to be more transparent about their positions and trading activities and force them to hold capital to back their deals. As hedge funds and high-frequency traders are not regulated in a way that reflects their importance, investors and the markets lack important protections. The standards are part of a push to increase regulatory oversight of the world's biggest and most important bond market. Authorities have fretted over the treasury market's stability since a crash in March 2020 forced the Federal Reserve to step in and support the market. In the past year, regulators have also turned their attention to the disruptive potential of highly leveraged hedge fund trades. The rule will require market participants that take on significant liquidity providing roles, meaning those firms that facilitate buying and selling in the secondary market by regularly quoting prices, to register with the SEC and become members of a self-regulatory organization. The SEC's final proposal has rode back from an earlier, more expansive definition of a dealer following vehement opposition from hedge funds, which argue that they are investors rather than market intermediaries. Well, okay, yeah, but Citadel is not, but okay. Citadel founder Ken Griffin told the Financial Times last year that the SEC should focus its efforts on the big banks that facilitated treasury trading in the treasury market rather than increasing costs for the industry. In the initial proposal, any firm trading more than $25 billion of treasuries a month for 4 of the past 6 calendar months would have been forced to register, a provision that would have swept up a wide segment of the hedge fund market. That quantitative test was dropped entirely, and fewer funds will have to register under the new qualitative requirements. My voice is not the best this morning. However, the SEC made it clear that it would retain the ability to designate firms as dealers on a case-by-case basis. The vote builds on efforts by SEC Chair Gary Gensler to reform the multi-trillion-dollar market underpinning the U.S. financial system. In December, the regulator voted to adopt a landmark rule that would require more Treasury bond trades to be cleared centrally in a bid to reduce risk in the sector. A central clearinghouse stands between a buyer and a seller and prevents failed trades from cascading through the market. So I don't know if it would actually have any real tangible impact on the way that our market behaves, but it is an interesting kind of flavor to the regulatory environment and so forth, right? That they are concerned that like some kind of blow up with a hedge fund could lead to a cascade sell of treasuries. Right? You know, I wonder earlier we were getting all those notifications. It could also be from Discord. But I haven't gotten any from them recently, so. You know, I'm seeing more people report about it now. I wonder, I'd like to see Mr. Fed Guy talk about that. Maybe he will. Fred, stronger than expected employment growth in 2023 was even stronger than it seemed. Oh, man. Kathy Wood says Bitcoin to 1 million by 2030. Morningstar says she's the worst wealth destroyer. Oof. Can you imagine? Wall Street bets Nvidia is now a national security risk. Okay. Oh boy, somebody went and made a different subreddit. Real day trading. No troll policy. Yeah. Okay, so here's what happens on Reddit, and I think that this is absolutely effing hilarious. Is somebody will come in and they will say, you should use this method of doing things. It will make money for you. And then other people will come in and will be like, no, I tried that. It doesn't work. Here's some evidence that it doesn't work, yada, yada, yada. And coming in and saying, no, this doesn't work is trolling. So they've made a new subreddit apparently where you can't do that so that retail traders can continue to misinform themselves with technical analysis price action strategies. Yeah. Well, the main day trading subreddit is pretty awful. Oh, this one's been around for a long time, actually. It's been around for 2 years. Well, I will read it, but I'm gonna have to like double extra stop myself from like commenting in there because I know that anything that I say they will not like. When to enter and exit a trade. By a verified trader, okay. Decent break from the IB. Well, that little shift up to O2, I think, seems unexpected to me. I wonder. Let's come over to TradingView. I wish that TradingView, the default page, just would come in the chart. Okay. So the decline in the S&P 500 is accompanied by the KRE getting hammered. I don't have any direct evidence of like something unusual happening. Why is GeForce Experience overlay popping up on my screen? Let's change this subreddit over here to like top this month. Now this month. Yeah, this one, how to enter and exit a trade. Yep, looks like a lot of nonsense to me. How do they determine this person is verified, though? How did they decide that they were verified? Wait, they have a wiki. Maybe in the wiki will tell me. There's absolutely no information in here about what makes them verified. NYCB is down 10%. Well, it's not too big yet, but let's just keep a tab on that. The treasuries might be responding to regional bank weakness again. I would sure love to see the market stay below 26, but so far it's kind of still been like support. Pull up the chart. Sure. NYCB. Ooh, yeah, it's been down pretty big this morning. I don't know if that's actually like, is that, well, let's zoom out a little bit. Nah, I'd say that's a big deal. I'd say that's a big deal. Well, let's just like stay zoomed in on that then. I'm kind of starting to think about this, and I'm like, well, I didn't really decide where a stop was for me, so time of death payment 10 a.m. Well, so, yeah, something did happen at 10 a.m., huh? I don't know. Now, I really want to know how this subreddit decides that somebody is a quote-unquote a verified trader, but whatever. I wouldn't say it's worse than the main subreddit. It looks like it's pretty much the same kind of stuff as the main subreddit, just less popular. 3 weeks in the green is how they decide if they're a profitable trader. Do you see that there was a blue candle and the treasuries did back off? So I think it is. I don't know if I should stay on NYCB or if I should go back to the KRE. Let's stay over here because this seems to be like the lead contagion. Right. It's where the fire is. Yeah, here's the thing. If there was a person, they'd been trading for five years of profitability day trading. They had like verified their trades. Even better yet, they were trading with a robot, so we knew the exact rules that they were trading based off of, right? It would be a completely different discussion. But the reality is, I've never seen it. I don't think it exists. I really don't. Or at least not in somebody that would tell us and show us. But we were told the banks were sound. Well, okay, so here's the issue in this sort of situation is maybe the banks are sound. But just the market thinking that there's something going on and people selling it can create reflexivity that makes it not sound, you know? Self-fulfilling prophecy. Okay, so I am going to take this position off because this is starting to do something like the volume that just came in there is very concerning to me. It's very concerning to me. Yeah. Dude, like the 5-year just had something wild happen. Something's up. Like this is not just New York Community Bank Corp is going down. This is like somebody thinks they know something. There's something percolating through the market, right? Like there's got to be some news story percolating through the market. 15K print at 16. Yeah, that definitely stopped me out. I'm wondering with my swing strategy if stopping out on that is really the right call, but I'm doing it. I'm seeing volume like that and the catalyst that seems to be driving it is absolutely something that could erase all of my gains. So I'm just gonna, I lost like 500 of 3,000s, but that's not too terrible. Okay, let's try searching Twitter for NYCB. I wouldn't lose any sleep over New York Community Bank. It's not systemic. Well, there's a lot of people on Twitter talking about that particular ticker. Okay, so AI InvestWire, I guess. New York Community Bank Corp extended loss of 11% after tense talks with OCC, dividend cut, and write-downs. Oh. So is that it? Maybe. Well, I think that if they're going to move up, I'm going to do what I did last time and just kind of watch the chaos, right? Let's add a filter here. Make sure that it needs to have at least more than like 5 likes before it pops up to me. Okay, Walter Bloomberg pointing out that it was down about 10 minutes ago, which is about when we picked up on it. NYCB execs bailed before earnings? What? What's this? Trump can be put on trial? Where are you reading that? Ah. Okay, I don't know if that one matters. Former President Trump does not have presidential immunity, can be put on trial. I think that there is certain amount of immunity that the president should get, right? But there's definitely limitations on it, and the argument that they were making was kind of silly, and I kind of thought that they were destined to lose that one, because they didn't try and argue, well, there's something about this specific situation that gives us immunity and yada. No, they were saying, I just have immunity on all things. I can kill my opponents and it should give me immunity. Okay, so you got those are two things that are going on. So it could be the presidential immunity case coming out could also be part of the buying there. Could be. It come back awfully quickly here. But I'm still a little nervous. Part of my problem here also, in terms of like deciding what I want to do with it, is that, you know, I'm making this play that like I want to see it go from here to here, and it kind of like dipped below it, and now we're coming back into it. So like, it may just be support, right? That's not a clear enough. That 16 node is really sticking up as a store. Yeah. Boy, this was unusual, wasn't it? I think that the bid in treasuries is more likely to be because of New York Community Bank. I think that the Trump story is certainly playing here and everything, but I don't think that story would necessarily cause the treasuries to bid, the 5-year to bid that way. I think that it's okay, let's see here. Let me read a little bit about it, though. The U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit ruled that Trump's efforts, including promoting false claims of voter fraud, did not fall within his official presidential duties. Trump could appeal this decision to the full circuit court or the Supreme Court, potentially delaying his trial, which has been postponed indefinitely amid the ongoing legal battle over immunity. Trump faces 4 criminal indictments, and it's uncertain how many will go to jury trials during the election year, despite his leading position in the Republican polls. Yeah. Probably he does appeal it. I mean, I think that Trump's strategy right now is mostly like make sure that any trials happen after the election, right? It did kind of come back up there. I think this looks awfully dangerous, but we could see a little bit of more upside here. Iran could be nuclear within a week, new report says. That's funny because Iran the other day was saying, no, we definitely don't want nuclear weapons. We just want a power plant. And meanwhile, I'm over here like, why are they doing all these crazy things unless they already have the bomb? From r/technology, Elon Musk's alleged drug use reportedly had Tesla board members asking him to go to rehab. Yeah, but then they you know, put the kibosh or whatever you want to say on these rumors because like he gets drug tested regularly by NASA or something. Yeah. He definitely gets drug tested. Here's somebody on Reddit saying the world's richest man can't find a way to pass routine drug tests. Maybe you're right. Maybe he just cheated. But I don't really trust these sources either. Doesn't NASA make you piss in front of somebody unless you bribe someone? I mean, my understanding is that there are ways though. Like the whole all of these athletes that have been caught with performance enhancing drugs and all of that, they were drug tested. And they have to pee in front of somebody and they still find a way. They still find a way, so. The markup on Shahed drones sold to Russia is tenfold. 30k drones sold for over 300k a piece, according to what? Okay. Anyways, yeah, all of these weightlifters and stuff, they get tested and so forth, and they have ways around it. And like part of it is that they know when the drug tester is coming, and then how they like hide the pipe and everything, I don't know, but apparently they have ways of like fooling, even if there's somebody in front of you. Yeah, I don't know. So New York Community Bank Corp has started to go sideways, and the treasuries have kind of chilled out. I think I could probably put my short back on. But I don't know. I just really didn't like that, especially that huge order at 16 in ZF. Mm-hmm. Uh-oh, what am I missing? Yeah, okay, I don't think we need to do anything. Well, you know, even though the 5-year came back down, it didn't come back down in cumulative delta at all. Really makes you wonder who dumps 16,000 contracts. You know? That's nutso. There it's rising back up again. What do you think? Let's have a poll. Engage with your audience. Start a poll. Will we make it to March? Meaning, will we make it all the way to March without there needing to be some sort of government intervention in the regional banking market? Yes or no? Poll is up. Oh yeah, I forgot. Stormgate is available to play. You know what? I played it a little bit yesterday, but like after like waiting for it with such anticipation and everything, I was kind of like not interested in it anymore. I don't think there will be an intervention unless it goes forward. Well, so like a new BTFP facility would be considered an intervention, in my opinion. You think the dollar should go higher? Well, I don't know, because the thing is we have treasuries going up and the dollar falling. Because they think, the market thinks they're going to have to do intervention, and that will be inflationary and weaken the dollar. But it could happen. You could see like a strong bid come into the dollar if people are really panicking. Cumulative deltas are holding up there, even though the treasury keeps kind of coming back to this support area. If the dollar rises, the banks may have problems. Well, do you think? Do you think that it'd be any worse than if the yields rise too much? Like, I don't know. I'm reading this thread on Reddit about Stormgate on the real-time strategy subreddit, and it's pretty negative, I would say. So, like, people will always say, but the game's not finished yet. But I'm telling you, man, this kind of level of negative feedback at this point in the development is just really bad. This is really bad. Although a lot of the complaints are about the look of the game. So whatever. That 04 is still holding his support. The E-mini just kind of chopping in this range now. New York Community Bank is coming back down towards the lows, though. Do you think China will rebound? Not without significant policy changes. I think that the reason China is in the predicament that they are is because she has decided that now is the time for them to dump communism with Chinese characteristics and try moving more towards true communism, and it's gutting their economy. It's gutting their economy, and if Donald Trump gets in office, he's going to finish what he started with the trade war. So I think that Chinese investors have a lot to be concerned about, and probably the Chinese officials should be like stepping in and providing support to the market, like serious support to the market. But they have so much debt over there, I don't think they really can anymore. So, maybe in a decade or two, we'll be like, oh, we should have bought it here. But in the short term, I think it's going to be really hard for them to dig out of this hole. And my greatest concern right now, and the reason why I keep saying that, like, well, all of the economic data looks good and everything. Employment is really strong. Just realize that an economy can go into a recession very quickly. And the concern I have with the United States is that we go into this same predicament where something needs to be done and we really can't justify it anymore because we have too much debt. That's how you get a depression, folks. New York Community Bank Corp did go for new lows again. It's getting awfully scary over there in that one. I wish these stats up here in the upper right told me just like the daily volume or something. Sorry, what the daily change has been, because whatever. It's more than 10%. It's more than 10%. Uzi says 13.98. I guess if I had my my panel open with active trader, that would tell me, huh? He says Uzi's looking at Vite Trading. I guess I just wish that it was in Trading View. Now, you know what I really wish? What I really wish was that Fidelity had like a real trading app rather than the trash that they have. But I think that their trading app is kind of not very good on purpose because they don't want to encourage people to actively trade. E-Trades isn't bad. I don't know if I'd use it for day trading, but it's good to monitor investments. You know, I don't know. The only platform I've ever tried on the... Well, I've never tried IB. I've never tried Interactive Brokers, but, you know, I always felt that Thinkorswim was okay for that sort of stuff. Oh yeah, if you go back over like the last week, it's the drop in NYCB is insane. Yes. I saw some people on Twitter bragging about their options being in the money, so like this move down is even more than they market expected, I think. And it seems a little bit delayed, but now that New York Community Bank is heading down, you are starting to see a bid come back into the treasury a little bit. Okay, well, there's a little bit of a turn. Well, it doesn't look like we're going to get any crazy before we have to go. 30 seconds, my ding, 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 my alarm is going to go off here. So, pretty uneventful. Well, I mean, I guess we did get some fun in the end. Let's see, renewed bank fears breaks tight Tuesday. And we get 11 more characters. So I have to go. I'm gonna have to go with that. Looks like the market is waiting for the Loretta Mester. Yeah. Well, I think that the market was waiting for the Mester speech, and if it hadn't been for New York Bank Corp getting slaughtered today, we probably would still be below 111, right? And there was like a rush for the treasuries there. And I don't know why it kind of came in all at once and with the way that it did, but I haven't seen too much else since that. So maybe me getting out was the wrong decision. I don't know. It was enough to scare me though, because if they come in and they do something, I think those treasuries could go right back up to the month's highs very easily. So all right, guys, well, that's all we got for today. I will see you tomorrow. In the meantime, stay